So, from one American to another, I don't want to talk about Team USA. I don't want to talk about Hughes. I don't want to talk about Miller. I don't want to talk about the guys that won the gold, and I don't want to talk about Connor Hellebuyck. Instead, I wanted to dive into a name that was very closely linked with Quinn Hughes, a guy who ended up scoring an overtime winner to help Team USA advance in this hockey tournament. Let's talk today about Conor Garland and the buyers. Yes, that is right. I wanted to analyze this piece posted on CanucksArmy.com by Stephen Rodgett from earlier this week that dives into Vancouver Canucks forward Conor Garland and which NHL teams might make a new home for him. There are a number of interesting conversations to be had about these Conor Garland destinations, from another Canadian franchise to a team that houses a former teammate of his. Let's dive into it and more here in this video. So Conor Garland, of course, 29 years old, 5'8", 181, right-handed winger, can play both sides if need be. And Garland, for the most part, has been a very consistent 40 to 50-point guy with the Vancouver Canucks. It's disappointing that this season he's only on pace for 39 points in 71 games played. A pretty dire fall from what he had been doing the past few years. For Team USA, because that seems to be the biggest thing that people are talking about these days, he was a very capable offensive point producer, scoring 10 points in 10 games at the World Championships last year. It's kind of unfortunate that for Garland's sake, he was not good enough to make Team USA at the Olympics, but then again, it was a pretty stacked team. And so when it comes to Garland, this is a guy who is entering the first year of a $6.0 million AAV contract extension. 6x6, it's the old Louis Eriksson deal. It goes until 2032. And with the new contract comes trade protection. He will have full authority to choose where it is he goes to, or if he even goes at all. Right now, he's making $4.95 million against the cap till the end of the season, and he currently has no protection. He has the protection in July. He doesn't have it right now. The Vancouver Canucks, if they wanted to put all the chips in Garland's hands, they wait until the draft comes and goes, and then by the time free agency starts, that's when they ask Garland, hey, where is it that you want to be traded? If they were to trade him right now, they wouldn't need to ask him that. And you can say whether or not that is an important element of the conversation, whether or not it is a good thing for NHL teams to put the priorities and the desires of their clients first, ahead of their own desire to make trades and to negotiate with other teams. Quinn Hughes didn't have any trade protection, but essentially they treated the situation like he did. That's why he's in Minnesota, and that's why he's happy now. Speaking about the Wild and Quinn Hughes, let's dive into this article posted by Stephen Rodgett and Canucks Army. Link is going to be in the description. Let's talk about each of these teams and focus on two of them that could potentially be Conor Garland trade destinations. Now, here is the list in its entirety. You have the Columbus Blue Jackets, LA Kings, Minnesota Wild, New York Islanders, Ottawa Senators, Philadelphia Flyers, Utah Mammoth, and the Boston Bruins. There are so many teams on this list, but I wanted to focus on two of them. First, the Minnesota Wild. They are, obviously, going for it. Their back end is all built up, but they need serious help with their forward core. The Wild have already pushed in the majority of the assets to acquire Hughes, and in an ideal world, the remainder of their assets would go towards a new center. But those aren't exactly readily available, and so the Wild might have to compromise and add a good winger instead. In Garland, they'd get someone who already has established chemistry with Hughes and who is a personal friend, something that could come in handy as they attempt to extend Hughes this summer. That's something the Canucks once hoped Garland would play a role in, and maybe he still can, just not in Vancouver. And while money needs to be set aside for that potential Hughes extension, the Wild books are in relatively good shape moving forward, with some of their bigger and older contracts set to expire in the next couple of years. The Minnesota Wild may not have much left to give, but they've probably got enough for Garland, and he does look like a fine fit there. Now, I would be quite intrigued to see what a Conor Garland Minnesota Wild link would look like. What kind of a transition could the Wild give this guy in terms of his offensive output and the kinds of roles they would give him? I say that mostly because when I think about the Minnesota Wild, I think about the Russian dudes that have really started to take on a new role and have started to revive their careers, essentially. Vladimir Tarasenko is all of a sudden elite again, despite being a third liner. Danila Yurov is going out there as a pretty strong centerman. Ryan Hartman is only filling in at center right now. And then Joel Eriksson Ek is doing his job too. Never mention Matt Boldy, Brock Faber, and Quinn Hughes, guys that we probably all saw watch on our TV screens earlier this morning. But Conor Garland replacing Tyler Pitlick on the forward core would be a really nice addition and add some pretty appropriate depth to the very bottom of the lineup. Now, would you play Conor Garland, a former 50-point scorer just in the past few seasons, on the fourth line? Probably not, but you would try to get some other elements of his game utilized on Minnesota. I'm thinking the penalty kill. I'm thinking maybe the second power play. There are opportunities for a guy like Conor Garland to thrive in a situation like Minnie. And then I also wanted to talk about this team over here, the Ottawa Senators. They also have a pretty decent amount of deadline cap space, and they're a team that has actually been linked to Garland via Rumours, and it's not hard to see the fit. Garland seems like a natural, temperament-wise, for a team led by Brady Tkachuk. And the Senators are one of the few rosters out there that is heavy down the middle, but a little light on the wings. Bringing in Garland would instantly knock the likes of Nick Cousins and Mike Amadio out of the Senators' top 9, which makes them a better team. Garland's age matches decently well with their established core of forwards, and his skills should still be relevant to their attempts to get more and more competitive over the next couple of years. A bad start has left the Sens a full 6 points out of the playoffs as of the Olympic break. They can still attempt to make it, but even if they fall short, an acquisition like Garland can continue to pay off in the seasons to come, which makes him a fine way to hedge their bets. And I'm just thinking about it like this, eh? Imagine Conor Garland and Brady Tkachuk on the same team, with Nick Cousins, with Ridley Gregg. That would be the most annoying, agitating kind of team to play against, and I don't know if I think it's a good idea or a bad idea. For my sake, as a Vancouver and Montreal fan, it's probably a terrible idea. But for the Ottawa Senators' sake, oh boy, I think Conor Garland would be a really nice addition. He would be almost exactly what they could benefit from, honestly. He fits the bill of the style of player that Ottawa likes to employ. You think about the guys in the middle to bottom parts of their lineup, the agitators, the guys who play with pace. We've seen Conor Garland play with pace throughout the course of his career. Yes, it is true that he has kind of been lacking in that department this season, but there is still a very notable profile here for a guy that has been very consistent all the way up until this season. It's just this year where things have not really been going all too well for Conor Garland, and you can pinpoint pretty much the exact moment he had stopped scoring. It was after Quinn Hughes got traded. So, is this a symptom of a Conor Garland melancholy, missing his friend type of thing? Or is it just, oh, he fell off? I would be very doubtful to say that Conor Garland straight up fell off, and probably a lot more believing that the motivation to be on a team that doesn't have one of his best friends on it anymore might have stung a little bit more than expected. So I'm a believer that Conor Garland can get back up to speed and actually provide some very solid NHL minutes for a cup potential team, middle six or otherwise. Do you agree? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. The article is also going to be linked in the description if you want to go out there and read this yourself. There are a number of other teams that are talked about and written about, so go ahead and give Canucks Army your ad views. But with that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Conor Garland, Minnesota, Ottawa. Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.